Clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Note this meeting is being televised, streamed and recorded by Bourne TV. If anyone in the audience is recording or videotaping, they need to acknowledge such at this time. Looks like no one. Use of flash photography during Finance Committee meetings is prohibited. All items within the meeting agenda are subject to deliberation and votes. Everyone is here this evening. The first item is Natural Resources request for reserve fund transfer for the removal of a derelict boat.
And Mr. Chair, before Hannah starts, I'd like to just let the committee know that there's a balance of $162,500 available.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Hannah Lawrence, Director of Natural Resources. So the Department of Natural Resources is requesting funds for the removal of the abandoned sailboat on Sagamore Beach, and the amount is $9,800. The sailboat was washed ashore in the fall due to being temporarily secured on a private mooring and broke loose during a storm after a rescue. That individual, we've had no luck contacting them in order to identify they are in fact the owners. We've reached out via mail. Everything has been returned to us, even exhausting all of our avenues by using the police department, if they have any other resources available. And we posted a legal ad in the Bourne Enterprise on January 10th, declaring that the abandoned boat would be considered abandoned after 30 days from that initial posting. So that puts us at about February 9th. We're officially declaring that boat abandoned. At this point, we still have not heard anything from the suspected owner of the boat.
Thank you. What happens with the boat? Does it have any value, or any parts of it have any value?
Really not much at this point. It's an older boat, and I think, unfortunately, some of it's been picked over,
Oh,
considering it's been on the beach. But there's really not much value in it.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion about this reserve fund transfer request?
Just a quick, you said the individual operating the boat was rescued and brought to the hospital, so.
They were.
But they're not the owner of the boat?
So unfortunately, there is no evidence of the boat being registered, and the hull identification number was removed from the boat. So we have no way of actually determining that the person that was operating the boat was in fact the owner. That's just who we suspect, as they were the last person on the boat and left some personal information behind. But otherwise, we can't confirm who
Because
it
it's not
actually belonged to.
registered.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further?
I just have a quick question. So I think the motor might be actually a few hundred yards down the beach. Is
Okay.
that can be removed as well?
Yes, if it's still on the beach, we'll make sure that gets removed.
Okay, I don't know why, but it's like a broken in half motor that's like further down the beach near the stairs.
Okay, we'll certainly make sure that makes its way off the beach as well.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion to approve this request?
So moved.
Second?
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next is budget review and discussion. I don't know if you're going to go in this sequence or let someone else leave early.
No, I think if we could go in this sequence, that would be great. Before we jump in, I'd like to just give the committee a little bit of orienting information. First of all, I just want to confirm and have everybody understand that right now, today, all of the town side union contracts are still open. So we will be coming back to you as those contracts close with budget adjustments throughout the spring leading up to town meeting. So right now, the salary and wage lines do not account for any COLA or any other changes that might occur throughout the collective bargaining process. So contractual changes that are in the version of the budget that you have today are steps that employees are entitled to because they're moving in this scale. So that's one item. I do want to let you know about some previous meetings where information is available if you want to go back and watch any of the previous meetings. The Select Board meeting on January 21st goes through the overall high-level budget presentation, and that recording is available. And capital outlay met twice last December, December 2nd and December 17th. The December 2nd meeting is about a 3.5-hour meeting where we went into detail on capital. So we won't be able to go into detail on everything at that level tonight, but that meeting is available to you. And then, of course, if we need to come back to any of these throughout the spring, we'll revisit them once the warrant is put together and talk about them as individual articles. So look at tonight, I think, as an introduction, and if there are questions or areas you want more information, we'll gather that and come back and talk to you. There will be a number of adjustments along the way. So as things change with the revenue side, with the governor's budget, and with the collective bargaining, we'll be back to talk to you with changes along the way. Any questions about that?
Any indications on what the raises will be for the town employees? No?
No.
Okay, because you hear scary numbers out there, so just kind of curious if you're thinking in the 3 to 10, or is it going to be above 10 range?
No.
No indication yet?
No indication. So going down the list, the first 3 budgets will be found in tab 4 of your book. So Town Administrator's Office I'll go first. It's on page 123-5. And I'll start by saying that the TA's office is not proposing any capital requests for this year, so I won't be talking about any capital items for FY '26. And the only new initiative in this budget, and the only change that is not a contractual obligation, is an upgrade for the full-time administrative assistant, and that's due to increased job duties. So there's one new initiative to upgrade the position in the administrative assistant position. This position has assumed a lot of increased duties with regards to special events, marijuana, processing of marijuana applicants, and managing the website. Otherwise, I'm not proposing any other new initiatives or changes within the budget for this year. Or I should say for proposed budget for FY '26 for next year.
Okay.
Do you want to open it up to questions as we go, or?
Yeah, question.
Go ahead.
What's the $9,000 for the contractual reduction for the contractual reserve?
So the $9,000 reduction in the contractual reserve is that as department head contracts come up, I'm moving away from a bonus structure.
Okay.
And that is where that money is funded out of. So
Okay.
as those contracts change, that is no longer necessary to be budgeted for.
Makes sense, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the town administrator's budget? No, that was pretty simple, thank you.
Finance is just a couple pages on, and it begins on page 130-7. And Erica will take that one.
Hi, good evening. Okay, like the town administrator, we are not presenting any capital budget for this year. And the finance department includes 3 functions: accounting, assessing, and treasury. There are minimal changes, all related to contractual obligations for salaries. So if you look at the first page of the budget, you will see a decrease in 5111. We did have a change in staff. The former town accountant was at the top step, so we have reset that scale. So that's why there's such a significant savings there. And the same thing with the longevity. Moving down, you'll see changes in the assessing salaries. Again, contractual obligations. The assessor's hours went up from 35 to 37 and a half, so that's why that number's a little larger than the rest. And then we did reset the data collector position under 5113, so that's showing a minimal change there. Continuing down, under assessing 5304, services consultants. This relates to our assessing valuation services. So you'll see that this fluctuates from year to year depending on where we are in the revaluation process. The next reval year is for fiscal '28, so you'll see this number increase as we prepare with additional inspections. Minor increase to dues.
Erica, I just have a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
That's $70-something thousand. I mean, could we, instead of having a consultant, could we just hire another assessor for the town of Bourne?
It's possible, but part of that includes their software as well, and it's proprietary with PK Consultant. So we have hired an additional data collector. We did reorganize probably 2 years ago, and we decided not to fill the assistant position so that we could do more data collecting in-house. So we do have 2 data collectors.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And then going down to 5111 again under treasurer collector, all contractual obligations related to salaries and steps. No other changes. So the overall budget increased $7,599 or 0.74%.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments on the finance budget? Okay. Facilities?
Yep, facilities is next, and it's on page 197-23, still in tab 4.
Thank you, Riley. Liz Harsgrove, Assistant Town Administrator. Again, we have minimal changes, mostly contractual within our operating budget, and we do have 3 capital items that are falling within facilities for FY '26, which we can discuss after the operating, if you prefer. Mr. Chair, I don't know, if we're the first department with capital, so would you like the capital first or the operating?
Yes,
first?
operating.
Sure. So, like Marlene said, on page 197-23, we have salaries. That is a decrease due to, again, the former facilities manager position was at a top grade, and because we have a new employee, it starts again at the bottom, so there's some cost savings there. And then 5116 is from contractual union, the step increases. When you move down to the next section, under purchase of services, there is an increase in $5,000 on line item 5239. And that is bringing up the budget to a more realistic number due to the increases in mechanical, electrical, plumbing issues. That is all of the buildings with the exception of PD and the community building. So any of the fire stations, the town hall, or the library, and even archives in some capacity, we are obligated for those types of mechanical work and electrical plumbing. So then the next page, down under police station, in the middle of the page, number 5240, there's an increase of $3,700. That again is due to increase of facility-related issues that is, we are obligated to maintain.
Sorry, I have a quick
Yeah.
question. Is that related to increase in contracts, service contracts, or is that?
Everything and above, yes. So any work that we are contracting out or doing in-house, just the cost and the number of responses and work orders that we have, it does cost more.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
Yep. So, and then on the next page, again, so it's very minimal, we have an increase, I believe, of $500 for custodial supplies at the library, down at the very bottom on line item 5450. And that, again, is just bringing it up to realistic costs of what it takes to operate a building 6 days a week. So, and that is it for operating under facilities.
Thank you. Any questions about the operating budget, facilities? Okay, so
Okay.
capital.
All right, capital items. I'll take the first one, which is the library. Speaking of the library, as many of you know, that there is a feasibility study that is ongoing right now. It is scheduled to close out before town meeting, and slated on the town meeting is $150,000 for an OPM and design costs for the next step in planning for the building's future. So capital outlay reviewed it and approved or recommended to move forward with the article for $150,000. And I believe that is out of free cash.
Thank you.
I'll do the next two capital projects for facilities. The first one is a new fire station on the south side of the canal. And we're recommending $18 million of excluded debt for a new south side fire station. So as you know, the property was purchased in January at 171 Clay Pond Road. And we've begun our next steps to get that ready. The building is still in conceptual design, and it's hovering right around 16,500 square feet. And we're reaching the $18 million number because we're holding approximately $1,000 per square foot, which is what we're seeing, what our OPM and architect is advising us based on the bid numbers that they're seeing for projects that are in bidding now, being awarded now, plus an escalator, because we won't be putting this project out to bid until the fall or winter, next fall or winter. So we have to build in, and then awarding, and then not starting until construction until spring of '26. So we have to add some escalator into the prices we're seeing now. And then, I mean, obviously, as construction prices change within the market, it's going to be it's going to be increasingly difficult to keep the costs down. So $1,000 a square foot is a lot. I mean, it's a lot, but we don't want to leave this project short and not be able to, we don't want to go out to bid, get the bids back, and then not be able to award because of lack of funding. So that's why this is coming in at $18 million.
Thank you.
I know there will be a lot more information coming, but is there any preliminary questions at this point on kind of the approach we're taking?
No, given that housing's around $500 a square foot, $1,000 a square foot seems reasonable. But-
I know it's hard to
Right.
even say that.
Yeah, but the 16,500 it's hard to, it's 2 stories?
Yeah, so it's a 2-story station, a 4 double bay floor plate. And it's built for it's not built for our staffing today. It's built for staffing 40 to 50,
Yeah,
40 to
obviously,
50
yeah,
years
yeah,
plus
yeah.
storm staffing. So it is, I don't want to say it's going to be overbuilt, but it's going to be built to meet the needs of the town in the future. So we don't want to be in a situation where we open a building in 2 years and it's already too small. So we're building in some room for growth.
Do you know how large the one is in Sagamore is? Is it about, it's gonna be about the same size?
I don't think it's not a headquarters, so Sagamore's is the headquarters, so there's administrative office space. It is not going to be that large.
Not gonna be that large,
I
okay.
don't know the square footage on that. We can follow up with that, but there's functions. It's not going to have a training room. It's not going to have offices. So there's a lot of space in 3 that's not going to be replicated.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All right, well, this is an exciting project. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next project, I need to ask for is $2.5 million in borrowing to remove and replace the roof at the police station, which is about 4 years old. So I'm going to preface this by saying we are filing litigation with the contractor and other parties who were involved in this project. So there's going to be a lot of questions that because we are at the beginning of the litigation process, I want to take your questions. Before I can answer them, I need to talk to town council about what I can share at this point. But what I can say is that about this time last year, it was last February, we had someone at the building on a cold morning, and there was frost on the roof, and we were lucky enough to notice that the roof visually was behaving funny. And I can't show you the slides, but if you do watch the December 2nd capital outlay meeting, you'll see the slides. And what is happening is that there's the sheathing under the shingles it's cupping and it's projecting through the shingles, and that's what was seen. And clearly that's not normal. Now, I will say that there's 6 years, the town has 6 years from taking occupancy of the building to file suit against the contractor. So that's called the statute of repose, and we are still within that time period. So in many ways, we're very fortunate that we've noticed this within the first 6 years, and it was just by luck, because it's not always visible. Sometimes the roof looks completely fine. We just happened to see it when it was behaving in this way. So we are able to make this claim, and hopefully, we need to front the money because we need to fix the roof and prevent any further damage to the structure. But we will try to recoup as much money as we can. So after we noticed this last February, we did an extensive investigation utilizing an envelope expert. So we did a number of destructive test cuts. So we cut into the roof all the way through all of the layers of the roof, took that material out. Everything was measured and all of the materials were noted. And then our engineers took what they found in the field and compared it to what was spec'd in the plans. And we are finding major discrepancies. We're finding design flaws as far as intake and venting air exchange. So we're also finding the wrong materials being used. So materials that are supposed to vent vapor are non-venting, and materials that are not supposed to vent are venting. We're finding that in addition to just the plain wrong materials being used, that the design just wasn't followed. So if 2 layers of insulation were called for, 1 layer was installed. So we are finding flaws with this roof kind of across the board. And our envelope consultants and experts really told us there's no way for us to fix this roof in place. We have to take it all off down to the trusses and rebuild it. Which it is just an astoundingly frustrating proposition.
So aside from litigation, which can be costly, at least for somebody, and take a long time, did the builder or whoever's responsible have an opportunity or take an opportunity to say, oh, we see what you're talking about, we can fix that, or it's just not?
We're not giving them that opportunity. We are going to bring in someone else to fix it. We're not comfortable with them touching it.
Yeah, burned once. Tom?
Where did the estimate for replacing it come from?
Our envelope consultants, so they did all the test cuts, they did all the, investigation, and then I contracted with them to do a schematic design. We're not at the concept level, but a schematic design and schematic cost estimates. This project will have to go out to bid. The design of this project will have to go out to bid, and all of those costs are bundled into this number. So this number includes design money to redesign the roof, OPM money to manage the job, and construction money for demolition and replacement. But the cost estimates were prepared by the engineering firm.
Another question. When you say, you said it was not the correct materials, I think, at one point. Does that mean not according to the plans and documents?
Yeah, some of the materials so the building had a very extensive spec book, and all of this is called out in the plans and the specs. And not all of the materials were wrong, but some very key materials were wrong and did not meet spec.
Go ahead.
You say we have to redesign the plan, we can't use the old plan? If it's already been planned out, spec'd out, we know the materials, can't we just use that? Do we have to spend extra money to redo that work?
So part of the issue is that the design is flawed. We don't have proper air exchange.
So the design was flawed to begin with, and on top of it, they put the wrong materials on. I know that when I did work at my house, we always have a building inspector come. There was no town inspector that came and checked on the work that was being done?
So it was inspected.
Mm-hmm.
It was inspected, but the inspector is not the OPM. They don't inspect that it was actually constructed per the specs. So they're inspecting under the code.
And so the OPM is supposed to make sure that the materials match the specs. And the OPM does not work for us.
The OPM worked for the town, and the architect worked for the town, and they failed in their oversight responsibilities.
They did fail, okay, all right. And my third question is, are we currently using this company in any other current projects, or did we use them in any past projects?
Yes, the OPM was used for the wastewater treatment plant, also next to the police station. I don't believe the contractor did any other projects in town that I'm aware of, nor the architect. The OPM was under contract. When I arrived to do the Southside Fire Station, I terminated that contract.
Okay, because, I mean, that came up recently, too, having to redo that roof when it didn't seem that old to have to redo it. The fire station, the Sagamore Fire
Oh.
Station.
So the Sagamore Fire Station is at a 20-plus year, so it is ready to be replaced. The Sagamore Fire Station was built by the state, so
Okay.
that was actually not a town-managed project.
Okay. All right, so I don't know if you can say whether the OPM or the architect are part of the legal actions?
The architect will be.
Okay.
Priscilla?
Mr. Chairman, I have a whole slew of questions. What does OPM stand for, sorry?
Owner's Project Manager.
Oh, okay. And then, yeah, so could you explain that to me? Because did you hire a clerk of the works or not? Because we're the owner, right, the town?
So,
And who is that person contracted to?
so this is a project, because of its cost, it had to go out for designer selection. So it can't be a clerk of the works. It has to be an owner's project manager.
Okay.
So the town, at the time, the town, I don't know, I wasn't here. I don't know who made the ultimate decision. I'm making some assumptions here because I wasn't involved in the process, but I'm assuming the building committee made a recommendation to the select board, and the select board authorized the town administrator at the time to sign the contract.
Okay.
But I don't know how that actually worked for this
Okay.
project.
Okay, a couple of other questions, if I may. What type of roof is it?
It's an asphalt roof.
Is it flat?
No.
Okay.
It's actually quite a steep pitch.
Okay, so the design has to go out to bid because of the price. What is the cutoff for when it does have, because I know design, under certain circumstances, does not have to go out to bid. So is there a cutoff price?
Yes, so if the project's estimated at more than 1.5 mil, it has to go designer selection by law.
Okay. And then, does that have a different process than construction going out to bid, or is it similar? I mean, do you have like a,
It's an RFP. So the designer goes out RFP, the OPM goes out RFP, and then the construction contract goes out bid.
okay. Let's see, I had a couple of other questions. Can't read my own writing. Okay, do you happen to know the square footage of the roof?
I don't, it's in the
Okay.
plans, but I don't recall it off the top of my head.
Okay. All right, I think that's it. Thanks.
Amanda?
Are there any procedural changes that we can make or anything we can do to try and make sure this doesn't happen again? I know there's nothing we can do about the past, and it sounds like you're working on litigation, and hopefully that includes attorney's fees, and hopefully their insurance policy will cover it. So you're addressing the past, but how do we try and make sure this doesn't happen moving forward?
I'll be talking to the select board tomorrow about a
About that,
standing
okay.
building committee.
Okay.
Dan?
When they rip the roof off, is the station still going to be able to be used, or
That's a great question, and it's
revert
something.
back to?
No.
Main
So,
Street.
No. I can say we won't be reverting back to Main Street. That's something that we're not sure yet. We have to talk about how we can phase it. You may know that, like, there's different sections, different
Oh, yeah,
gables
yeah,
in the roof.
yeah.
So we don't know yet, and that's something that when we get into design, we'll be able to better understand that. But it's certainly not the case where the entire thing is gonna be lifted off all at once and thrown in the landfill. It's going to have to be a carefully sequenced.
Right, that's difficult. I did construction for a little bit. I ripped off plenty of roofs, and we waited for a week.
Yeah.
That we didn't have any rain. That's gonna be a hard task.
It's an incredibly difficult design project because we have to tie it into the existing wall.
Right.
And the roof thickness is going to be different. So it is not going to be an easy project at all. I'm sorry about this. Like, I'm sorry that I even have to ask the town for this.
Flying buttresses? Never mind.
Well, maybe we'll get reimbursed by the builder or his insurer. All right, any further discussion on facilities? No, thank you. All right, next, police department.
So the next four budgets are in tab 5. And the police department starts on page 210-28.
Thank you for having me.
Chief.
Brian Mesa, Chief of Police. So our budget for FY 2026 is going to be a $6.17 million budget. It's a level service budget with adjustments directly related to the contractual obligations or anticipated increase in the costs of services and supplies. So for the 5100 series in our budget, which is personnel services, adjustments to the salary lines of 5111, 5112, 5113, and 5115 are based upon the obligations of existing collective bargaining agreements. That is steps. Obviously, all the contracts are open, like the town administrator advised. Police officers, supervisors, and dispatchers, this only accounts for the step increases. Savings were able to be realized in both the supervisor lines and clerical lines. The supervisors did go up, but the clerical went down based upon these savings, and that savings were because of several staff members that were at a higher rate were replaced by staff members at a lower rate due to retirements. The department reviewed our existing equipment replacement plans and was able to defer replacing some MDTs. Those are the mobile data terminals in our cars, which we usually replace every year through grant money. But that grant money can also be used for personnel costs. And we looked at our status for those MDTs, and we were able to defer that by 1 year. So that 901 grant, which accounts for $105,000, we're going to be able to apply that entire amount towards 5113. And that's why you see a reduction in that clerical line.
Thank you.
We have a new initiative in our community service officers to increase their hourly rate by $2 an hour to remain competitive on the Cape. Our CSOs are very important to the department. In the summertime, last summer they wrote 673 parking citations. They were also extremely useful for the 4th of July events in helping to keep peace and keep everything organized down Sagamore Beach and everywhere else. It's also a great tool for us to be able to start getting interest in the department. Several employees, including myself, started in that program. And we have one individual from last year that's interested in coming back as well and wants to be a full-time officer in our department. Other changes to personnel services, clothing, cleaning, that's 5124, slight increase of $3,000. That's based upon, that's money that gets paid to officers in their checks from the clothing and cleaning allowance. They elect to either have a stipend or to use a purchase order system. That changes each year, so sometimes this number goes up, sometimes it goes down. It gets offset in our other clothing and cleaning allowance line. 5141, that is a longevity, slight increase in that due to some changes in the longevity. Differential pay, that's 5142, slight increase to that based upon, the differential pay covers our FTO pay, out of rank pay, AT buyback, which is our accumulated time buyback, night differential for a stipend for officers get if they work overnights or evenings, and based upon the increased wages and everything else, we did a slight bump to this.
I have a question.
Yeah, Amanda?
Sorry, can we just back up
Yep.
to 5113, the grant offset?
Yes.
Is that an annual grant or?
It's an annual grant we've been getting, it's from 911, we get several grants from them, and that has been, at least for the last 10 years, we've been getting that. Last 4 or 5 have been consistently at 105. It can be used for a combination of equipment or personnel. We usually split it, $50,000 in previous budgets have gone towards this line. We increased it slightly last year, and we're using it a little bit more this year because my MDTs are in very good condition.
Okay. So we anticipate that we may be granted that in the future as well.
I very much anticipate we'll be getting that as well, and then we will plan in the future that we might have to drop that amount back down because it also used to replace dispatch consoles and other equipment that will come up for replacement.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, that comes from the 911 assessment?
That comes from the 911 assessment, so it's directly tied to us dispatching 911 and being the primary dispatch center in town.
Okay.
If that ever changes, that would reduce this as well.
Gotcha, thank you.
So for 5200 Department Services, most changes were related to the expected increases relayed from our vendors. It's extremely tough to get estimates at this point in the game in the current environment. We did our best, but most of those contracts and expected costs increased. The largest increases were in our communications, data, and IT, which are both very growing areas of cost, but also growing in importance for law enforcement. The lines that had level funding were medical, which is 5301, consultants, 5304, insect control, 5313, accreditation, 5321, postage, 5341, and advertising, 5343. No changes with those. So I'm going to go over our minor increases first in order as they appear in there. R&M Buildings and Grounds, 5240. That is an increase of $1,000. This covers our building, covers our equipment in the building that's unique to the police department. We have a Milo, which is a electronic, almost like a virtual reality with a screen, and you can train officers on different scenarios. Fitness room, range that's not related to our range non-HVAC portion of it. So that would be the cleaning of our range, the mechanical operation of it, our key system we have, unique things to the department. Then we have R&M Autos, police, that's unique equipment in our repair and maintenance of our vehicles. It's also our non-motorized units, such as our bikes, and our bikes would be our primary one with that. That was an increase by $1,000 for that to bring it up to $6,000. R&M machine repair 5246, that went up by $1,000 to $11,000. That covers our contracts, leases, maintenance. Our contracts for our various equipment went up when we looked at renewal prices. Rentals 5275, there was an increase by $600. That covers our trailers that are on site. We now cover emergency management and storing some of that stuff on site. We need to make some room for that. So we have a second trailer. We have one trailer that is specifically for large evidence, and we have another trailer that is for traffic supplies, EM. And other adjustments, IT services. So this went up by $20,000. It's 5305. This covers our record management software, our network management, our network with the state, policy management systems, antivirus, firewall, building security. The largest portions of this cost come from the building security, internet coverage, and our network management. All very important things to keep the building functioning and keep us secure. Professional development 5307 went up by $2,500. That is what we use to train our officers, send them to training classes. And with a younger department, it is very important that we train those officers to make sure that they're ready to be the leaders into the future. Communication telephone, that went up by $14,500. That is our VoIP service, our fax service, copper phone lines. Redundant emergency systems, which have been proven invaluable in recent years. Our fiber to various radio towers, and our department cell phones. One of the costs on that has increased is with our body cameras, we had to increase our data coverage to our internet bandwidth. So that was an increased cost. Printing went up by 1,700, primarily because of our emergency management role, to be able to print up new documents. 5,400 department supplies. The increases were generally related to the cost of procuring and supplies. Modest increases due to the need to replace some equipment that was purchased with the building that is now starting to show wear. And then our operational line in this one is our primary emergency management line, so that's why you see some activity in that line as well. I'll skip over the level funded ones. The increase lines were building equipment supplies, 5435, covers the PD specific equipment that would not be covered by facilities. Dispatch furniture, storage equipment, slight increase to that as we're starting to see some wear of $2,000. Traffic equipment, 5539, increase to this line by $1,000. That covers our traffic cones, our barricades. Most of our barricades were brought over from the old building. They're wooden barricades that are deteriorating. We need to start replacing those, come up with a replacement plan. Slight increase there will help us to start replacing those yearly. IT supplies, slight increase of this by $1,000 to help replace some computers that have been running 24/7 for the last 4 years. And slight increase to books by 500. And then the largest increase in this section is our operational equipment line, 5594. That was increased by $29,168. And the biggest reason for this increase is due to a one-time cost of $15,000 related to the purchase of ammunition for training our officers on the new rifles that were approved at last Capitol. Capitol covered the cost of the rifles, not the cost of the ammo. I need to make sure that all the officers have rounds put through those rifles and are very accustomed to them. Other increases.
Sorry, excuse me, Chief, that, you said it was $15,000 for the ammunition, that's still, what's the other $15,000 for?
Yep, so the other things in that, so there were other increased costs for ammunition, and let me just switch over to my other guide here. So across the board, so every time we send an officer to the academy, they need 2,000 rounds. And anticipating for 4 officers next year, total cost of 2,000 rounds of 40 and 2,000 rounds of rifle is going to be a total of around 8 grand. The other increase on this line was our emergency management equipment, which is our rave system, messaging boards. Some of those costs were not fully realized in the previous budget, and they were as our signboards. The signboards were purchased, and they included service plans for them. Those service plans will be coming up. We're anticipating that there'll be a cost associated with those. Taser cartridges was that was increased by $1,000 almost. So going line by line of the different things that we get covered by that, which is our ammunition, our taser cartridges, our operational supplies, which is prisoner blankets, that was level funded in that. Did that answer your question, or?
Yes.
It's kind of a mix of
Yeah,
everything, but
yeah.
the biggest one was the $15,000. However, it was across the board with just operational supplies in general, and then some unknown costs related to the signboards and everything else.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Signboards.
5,700 is our other charges, so that would be our travel and our dues. So our travel increased by, both of those increased by $1,000, so total of $2,000 for travel and $7,000 for dues, and that was just due to increased costs related to those. And that covers the operational budget. I'd answer any questions before I move on to capital.
No, thank you.
All right. Which project would you like me to start with first on the capital?
Let me tell you what so on their list, actually, I should tell everybody, I'm looking at page, tab 3. So Chief, yours, if you could do the vehicles, then the range HVAC, and then the voice recorder phone system.
Perfect. Thank you. So our vehicles, generally, we've been doing a 5-vehicle replacement. This year, we're going to be dropping that to a 4-vehicle plan. That will be 3 patrol vehicles and 1 admin vehicle. The patrol vehicles are expected to be approximately $56,000 per vehicle, with an upfit cost of around $39,000 per vehicle. The vehicle I'm expecting it to be the Durango. We're running into some hiccups with getting mixed information as to whether it will be Green Communities compliant or not. If it's not, we have to reevaluate what vehicle we're going to be going with. It looks like the Durango may be dropping by 1 mile per gallon, which will drop us into a range that is no longer acceptable. I'm hoping that's not the case. If we have to switch to something else, I may have to start looking at hybrids or something else, but that would involve, the plan is to keep with the Durangos, we like those, and to be able to get to a point where we can start moving equipment from one vehicle to another and have some cost savings. We're in a cycle where we keep on replacing to a different type of vehicle, which prevents me from being able to move equipment over from vehicle to vehicle. And the admin vehicle is expected to be around $55,000, so a little bit less than the patrol, with a lower upfit cost of about $30,000 per vehicle. Questions on the police vehicle replacement plan?
So even, it says 5 vehicles per year, but you're just going to do 4 this year?
This is going to be 4. We're going
Just
to
4?
defer one of those this year and take a look at where we are in upcoming years.
So if I could just interrupt, just so the committee understands. So the first column, if you're looking at the funding plan, the first column is the department's request, the 468. So that's the cost for all 5. What I'm recommending that we're able to fund is the 370.
Which is the 4.
Which is the 4.
Okay.
So that's why
Okay.
there's a difference between those numbers. You'll see that generally, well, I mean, I always try to recommend, I always try to be able to recommend the full request. And you'll see that the recommendation normally meets the request, but because this one I cut back by 1, that's why there's that difference.
Thank you, Marnie.
Would you anticipate that you would need to do 6 next year, or there's enough wiggle room in there that just sort of work out?
Well, since Erica's in the room, we'll try to catch it up as soon as we can. How about that?
Thanks. All right, any more questions or comments on the vehicles?
So did we buy 5 last year?
Last year, we purchased 5.
How many do we have in our fleet?
We have a total of... We have a total of 13, 10, 2, so it's 23, 25, 26 of,
26 cars?
correct. Of that, that's 13 marked patrol units, 10 unmarked admin and detective vehicles, 2 marked detective vehicles, and then a marked pickup truck.
So we're going to replace, so 4 new vehicles come in and 4 old vehicles come out?
We evaluate that, this plan was for 3 replacement and 1 new vehicle to the fleet,
Okay,
because we have a
alright.
new position. We have a new lieutenant position that we added, so that would be adding 1 to the fleet.
Okay, that's 1 to fleet.
And something we're planning, we're looking for on the horizon with the bridge job that's coming up. We have to keep an eye on what our fleet looks like. I anticipate that will be very intensive for details and need for police vehicles, especially based on the initial assessment of how many detail officers will be needed. So we're looking to how that will impact the department planning ahead.
On your details, are you able to charge for the cruisers?
Yes, we charge for the cruisers. It's a $50 fee that we charge for every 4 hours of the detail.
And does that go into a special account for cars, or how does it?
That goes back to the detail fund, right?
Yes.
To the detail fund? And is that, Erica, is that just paying out for the details, or, I mean, at $100 a day, there should be a considerable amount in that fund for the
Generally-
vehicle use.
Right, so generally that pays for the details, and we do charge an administrative fee, which we get to keep. Let me look at the detail accounting for that and get back to you.
Could you go over the price for the vehicles, the purchase price, and then the add-on of the upgrade price,
Yes.
or whatever that's called?
Upfit.
Oh, upfit, okay, sorry.
Yep, so for the patrol vehicle, it's approximately $56,000. That includes a 5% estimate of increase on the, from the expected budget to what we were going to pay on it. And then, because the state contract is not settled yet. Then the upfit is $39,000. That upfit includes, the $30,000 of that is light sirens, install, cages, with some other wiring and installation of our radios, whatnot. Then there's a cargo system we use to hold our rifle. That's $2,000. Graphics on the vehicle can be anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500. Radar unit is $3,000. Sometimes we can cut that out. This cycle we have to have that in there because our radar units are need replacement in these particular vehicles. Our MDT docks, which is the computer docks and keyboards for the car, those generally don't last more than 3 or 4 years. Those cost $1,500, and then the police radio scanner is $1,000, so that brings it to $39,000. And a little bit less on the admin side of it.
Wow.
It's trust me, the costs are boggling to, and that I think goes with everything we're looking at these days. Anything with electronics, chips, it's ridiculously expensive. If we can reuse, we will.
What do we do with the 3 vehicles that we're replacing?
So generally, we used to be able to trade move those back into the town fleet with green communities unless we're replacing it with a vehicle that gets lesser gas mileage. So we have our vehicle gets better gas mileage than the vehicle it's replacing. We can't replace it, so we generally trade those in.
Will we get any trade-in value to cut back on the $370,000?
It's ballpark anywhere between $500 and $3,000, but these vehicles that we're trading in generally have a lot of miles. We're looking at 100, 120 sometimes, or they have significant mechanical issues that make them beyond. We do try and get the best we can on that, and if they ever have cost savings, we will revert that back to the town.
Thank you.
Yes?
Okay, I guess
The only
that's,
capital outlay?
Nope, I have two
Oh,
more.
oh, okay.
And we were at the range.
Yep.
So this is the HVAC system for our police range. So I'm asking for $475,000 to replace that system, or a good portion of that system. A little history on that, when the building was designed. So our range was not part of the building construction. I know we're having other issues, but this was, it was pulled out of the project and was purchased through a separate contract. For some reason, I can't answer why, the decision was made to value engineer the air conditioning out of the range. So it is a heating-only system. Unfortunately, because the design system is constantly cycling all of the air in the range with the outside air. So in the summertime, it pulls all of that hot, humid air, brings it into our basement, and turns it into a tropical environment. So you have humidity, condensation dripping down the windows, the floor becomes wet, and the temperature in the room reaches anywhere between 90 and 95 degrees. Not optimal conditions for us to be doing firearms training in. So essentially, right now, we stop using the range when the springtime comes and those humid temperatures come in, and then we start using it again when the fall comes. We can continue going, if we don't replace it, we can continue going down that path, but it causes some operational concerns for us. We reached out to the range designer, who gave us an original estimate of $600,000 to resolve the issue. And their resolution was not guaranteeing we'd be able to utilize it all year round. Then we contacted one of the premier companies in the country that deals with ranges and their HVAC system. It was the company that was supposed to originally design our range HVAC. They came back with a number that was in the ballpark of $475,000 with, it was about 325, I think, for the actual cost, and then additional unknown costs for design and everything else. So they said 475 would be a good number for us to go in with to be able to complete the project. It is something that would require going out to bid, but this would make the system one where we can continue using the range year-round. It is not something you can just add a split duct unit into and call it a day. It has to have proper ventilation for the lead that's down there, and it's also not something that they can just replace one part. They're essentially taking a piece off our roof about the size of a VW Bug, a VW, the bus, and taking it off and putting a new one up there that is properly designed.
So this is just, it's a separate unit just for the range, or this integrates with the entire, no, it's separate?
This does
for the-
not touch any part, because of the lead and everything else, in it does not touch the rest of the building ventilation. It is a separate system, and again, I don't, as Marlene mentioned on the roof, I don't enjoy being here in this position. Decisions were made, and unfortunately, we have to now deal with those decisions.
I get it, thank you.
Any more questions on the range heating?
No, I appreciate the effort to get the second quote, though. Really appreciate that.
We'll, if we can save another 100,000, we will, trust me.
Thank you, I appreciate, yeah.
I
That's
have
great.
a quick
Oh,
question.
Priscilla?
Sorry, what is the square footage of that space?
I would have to get back to you. It is essentially the entire width of our building, and it's 5 lanes, but I would have to, I'd have to get back to that on the actual footage. It's a 5-lane range.
And then, do you happen to know the ceiling height?
I do not know. I could get you that as well. Ceiling height and square footage.
That'd be nice, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. And the last one. So when we, the phone system that was purchased with the building apparently went end of life a year after purchasing the phone system. It has now gone into sunset phase on its support, where they are no longer providing technical updates, service updates at the end of this year. This $65,000 I'm asking for is a replacement of that server for the phone system, but we will be reutilizing the phone hardware. Essentially, the company Mitel that we use, they made some business decisions after acquiring companies, and the product that the town went with at the time when they built the building was a niche product for them that was designed for up to 250 phones. They've determined that's not a market they want to consider pursuing, so you have enterprise class or you have much lower. So essentially, if we don't replace it, we will not have security updates. We will also not be able to add new users as people get hired for voicemail boxes and whatnot. At the same time, we were notified that the state 911 will no longer be allowing us to record our radio recordings on the state 911 recorder. It's a benefit we've been utilizing for as long as I've been in the department. I'm sure it comes down to space, but they're choosing to move in a different direction. So with that, I'm able to combine. I was looking at having to buy a new recorder for our radios anyways. I'm able to use the replacement on the phone system to add. It includes a recorder anyways, so we're going to just a slight increase to the cost is going to be able to record our radios as well. So trying to find the silver lining in this one. I have been told by the phone vendor that there is no plan to sunset this product anytime soon, but anytime soon is not defined. So it is clearly a question that we asked them. But that's that project. Does anyone have any questions on that?
I thought you said 60,000, but this says 30,000. Did I mishear you?
No, you didn't.
I think it's always been 30, hasn't
Is it
it?
I might have had the wrong number on my screen here. Let me.
Is it,
I have a different number in my packet.
what do you have?
I have 65.
You have 65? Okay, I'll check this.
Yeah, that's on the CIP.
Okay, let me double check that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Priscilla, go ahead.
Sure, yeah, sure. So I have a couple of questions. So, with this proposed new system, is it compliant and compatible with any state system? Will you be able to, you were talking, it sounded like you were talking about interfacing with the state system.
So essentially, our state 911 system, because we're a 911 answering center, we have a call recorder for the 911 system.
Okay,
They have allowed us in past years to record our business lines and our radios, our police radios with that system. A few years back, they cut the business lines out of it, but they allowed us to continue recording our police radios.
okay.
They're now removing the police radios from that. So it's not, we will not have, it does not need to interface with anything.
Okay.
It needs to take over for a role the state's no longer providing for us.
Okay. Second couple of questions is, and I think you answered it, but I just wanted to verify, make sure I'm on the same page. There would be no, like, warranty that this would not come to end of life within, say, 5 years? They don't guarantee it for any span of time, is that correct?
They don't carry it to any span of time. All that they will tell me is that it is a flagship product for the company, for Mitel. They have no anticipate. It's been around for many years, and they anticipate having it for many more years. Although I will say on sunsetting, they generally announce that with a 5 or 6 year cycle. Looks like it was likely announced prior to us purchasing it initially, and that whoever had made those design decisions did not look at that sunset phase.
You're talking about the previous?
Correct.
Okay, one more question. Does this cost represent the system plus maintenance over time?
This covers the system
Maintenance
for,
contract.
it is a 5. Phones.
Or help desk, or what have you? Support?
This, I would have to get, it's either 3 or 5 years, but it does cover the maintenance on it, and the maintenance and licensing of that product for that time.
Any help desk? Does it cover help desk?
That is that's part of our budget. So the help desk is part of our phone budget that we have already, so it is not included in the capital
Okay,
portion.
thank you.
I'm sorry, the voice recorder, and then you have another 100,000 for the, no, I'm sorry, 58,000 with an addition of 14,500 for telephone. Do they tie together at all?
So the budget on the telephone system is for, so our telephone is for our VoIP monthly service, our cloud service. The actual phone system itself is not part of that budget that's in there.
Okay, so not telephone, it's more like internet, okay.
But it is telephone, but there's the telephone hardware, which requires a server. The telephone service and equipment related to it is something different.
Okay. And then on the new system that you're going to install, I mean, is it something that Falmouth uses, or do you know anybody else is using that to check with them to make?
I'm not sure which, Mitel is one of the biggest players in the game. And the hardware we have is, our dispatchers like it. We're going to be keeping that hardware. It's changing the brain in the background.
Okay.
But it's used in many public safety. I don't know who's using it on the Cape, though.
Okay.
I want to jump back here. We commend you for being involved in the accreditation program. Do you have any anticipated completion date on that?
That, no anticipated completion date, but it is something that we are pushing to the forefront now that we have the new lieutenant. That's going to allow us to rewrite our policies, make sure we're compliant. There's also some changes on the horizon when it comes to accreditation, because there's a tug and war going on between the police the post and also police accreditation. But once we see how that landscape falls, we will be making sure, because we're going to be required to be an accredited department no matter what under post, in certain areas.
Yeah.
But I do not have a end date on that I anticipate hitting at high speed now that we have the new lieutenant.
Great, good, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments on police? All right, thank you. That was a lot of information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fire department is on page 220-32. Tab 5.
Discuss the EMS budget too.
No, because we put that in yours.
That's what I wanted to, yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yeah, we put that in yours last year.
Yes. Good evening, Dave Palonzi, Chief of Department, Bourne Fire Rescue. Thanks for having me. So on page 220-32, under the personal services, a lot of these increases are contractual in nature. The department head salary in 5111, that's contractual increase. The supervisors and administrative secretaries, 5112, same thing, some contractual changes. The salaries for firefighters, 5114, same thing, contractual changes, basically with increasing steps, increasing education for some of the firefighters. That's where that is. Out of grade, 5119, a slight increase with that, keeping in line with previous years. What that is anytime we have a firefighter working as an acting lieutenant for a shift, they get a pay bump for that, or a lieutenant that works as a deputy. So there's a little bit of an increase there for that. The next change is on 5124. We had an increase last year in the clothing allowance, but that was a one-time bump. We were able to bring that back down, so we have a little bit of a cost savings there for $4,000. Again, the holiday pay, 5140, slight increase with that based on salary changes with related to the contractual stuff with the steps and education that bumps that up. Same thing with longevity, 5141. We've got some increases of employees that get their longevity now. And that's pretty much it, everything there in the personal services section. Under purchase of services, 5,200 for 5243, our heavy trucks budget, we're going up $1,400. What we use that for is basically any of the repair and maintenance of our fire apparatus, the engines, the ladders, stuff that the DPW can't work on. Pump testing, hose testing, ladder testing, those things. Those services are going up, so we put a little increase with that to cover those costs. It's stuff outside of DPW. Next increase in that is on page 220-33. Our county dispatching under line 5326. That's gone up about $1,600. That's based on an estimate from the Barnstable County Sheriff's Office, who does our dispatching service. So that will cover that cost. That's the projection from them now. Our communications telephone budget, 5340, we're increasing that $1,000. That covers all of our cell phones, all of our iPads, all our trucks, 3 frontline engines, all our ambulances. We're running iPads on everything. We run Wi-Fi in the ambulances as well, and everything we're doing is all electronic. So that will cover all of those costs. That's it under services. Under the 1500 series, the supplies. If you look at 5500, our medical supplies first aid, it looks like there's a decrease in there, and I'll explain that. What we did was we took a 6% increase on the supplies from that budget, and what that does is that covers everything that we run our ambulance with. That's other than personnel costs. It's our equipment for the ambulances and our engines. It covers all of our software, the devices the fax machines that we use to fax stuff to the hospital from our cardiac monitors, our reporting software for patient care reports, all of that stuff. So we did a little increase in there, and then we took 25,000 out of that and moved it to another line, because the 25,000 is what we're using right now for our record managements, our patient care reporting, our fire reporting, and our scheduling. We moved that to the subscriptions line, 5582, and requested another $25,000, which is why you see that $50,000 in that line. We're converting all of our software into one unit. It's a full RMS that will cover everything from scheduling, patient care reporting, fire reporting, inspections, training, everything. Right now, everything that we use is all piecemealed. They don't coordinate with each other, and it's antiquated. So the new RMS will help us significantly in our operations and streamline a lot of our stuff. So that's why the medical supplies comes down, because we're putting it to a different line, because it's going to do everything other than just the ambulance. So we wanted to have it accurately reflect where it is. Any questions on that? Because I know it's a little bit confusing on that section. If not, that's the rest of the increases in the supplies section. On page 220-34, other charges, the 5700 series, hazardous waste contract, 5795. We asked for $5,000 more than that. That will cover the maintenance plan for our Sterilus machine. We were able to purchase, in cooperation with the Sandwich Fire Chief and Sterilus Solutions, and funding from the opioid settlement money, we were able to buy a machine that basically grinds up all our medical waste, stuff that we don't leave at the hospital, all the sharps that we collect from our residents, destroys it, shreds it, sterilizes it, and we can throw it in the trash. It's a $60,000 machine that we were able to get for about $10,000, and then the extra $5,000 is the annual maintenance on that machine, so we can keep it running. That's pretty much our budget.
Thanks. Any questions? Wayne?
Sir?
Chief, if you can back up to the county dispatching.
Yes.
So, do you know how many towns do, because they only do fire dispatch, correct?
I know they do PSAP, I think, for Falmouth, but I don't think they do police dispatch.
No,
I think they only do fire.
They just do fire. So,
Yep.
do you know how many towns on the Cape? It's a small number.
They just added 2 more.
Oh, okay.
They just added 911 answering for Provincetown, and they're doing fire dispatch. And they added another one, and I can't recall who it is now. Chatham? Could be. It's one of the lower Cape departments.
So, is county dispatch getting a portion of the 911 reimbursement that the town would get because they're not doing both?
So they do, there is grant funding that Bourne gets. It is,
I couldn't let you off the hook. Chief.
EMD money. There's EMD grant money that comes in. And if we are billed for that, and if we get the grant will offset it.
They are the answering point for our fire 911, correct?
Well, Bourne Police is the PSAP.
Okay.
And then if it's fire or EMS, they transfer it down to
So
county.
Bourne transfers it to county dispatch.
Correct.
And then if it's an EMS call, they do the EMS dispatch.
Yes.
And we have to pay a fee in addition to that for that service?
Yes. And then Bourne Police usually they apply for the grant. If they're successful, that money offsets it from the Commonwealth.
Basically?
The EMD is a net sum zero. We apply for it as part of our 901, and it covers the entire cost of the EMD, and the state covers that every year. And our amount that we pay is much less than the grant would even cover. So I think it covers up to 100-something thousand, and it costs like $35,000 for the EMD portion.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Oh, Tom?
I just have one, it's a comment, it's really not a question. On the first of the year, January 1st, I got the privilege to have a ride in the back of your ambulance. I'm here, I'm fine, but I was very impressed with the whole ride. Everything that happened went very well. Just saying.
Thank you. Sorry you had to go through it, but I'm glad that.
Me too, but.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And
Capital?
I have a few capital things if you want to hear about those as well. So we've got 3 items for capital. I don't know if you have a preference on how we go through them, but
So your list is the command car, the brush breaker, and then the ambulance.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So the first thing we're looking to replace is the town administrator said, our shift commander's vehicle. Currently, it is a 2017 Chevy Tahoe that has about 100,000 miles on it now. Similar to the police, we're running into some issues with some green communities vehicle stuff. Right now, we're looking at a 2025 Ford F-150 pickup truck or similar. We're trying to work out exactly what we'll do, but we had spec'd that out, and that came in at about $100,000, $15,000 for, we hope to add in what they call a Zoomro command shelter. What happens is when we go to calls now, a lot of the times we're out in the elements, rain, snow, running operations without any kind of cover. The Zoomro tent will attach to the vehicle, it's a quick inflate, and then it gives us a place where we can have some shelter during an emergency. So we included that with this, and that'll be stored in the vehicle. And that 100,000 includes the build-out of all the command staff, the command section of the truck, all the storage for all our apparatus and equipment that we have to carry with us. And like I said, as of right now, we're looking at that, the F-150, so. Any questions on that?
A question. So I just wanted to verify, make sure I'm on the same page and understood what you said. Does the $100,000 include any kind of built-out equipment, et cetera?
Yes, that will include basically a setup in the truck, in the back of the truck with a cap that it will hold all of the equipment. That includes all of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, we're looking to replace our breaker. It's listed in here as a forestry unit, a Humvee, but it's actually our 1996 military 5-ton truck. All of our brush vehicles throughout the years have been military trucks that have been converted, and they're unsafe and antiquated, and we've changed how we do our operations. So what we're looking at doing with this is, for $450,000, a fully outfitted brush truck that also will be a high water vehicle call, because a lot of the most recent calls we've been taking the brush truck to when it was in service were to retrieve people out of vehicles that were stuck in high water. So this vehicle will do both. It'll serve to do brush firefighting without going into the woods and knocking things down, but just to bring us off-road to an area where we can safely fight the fire. And then we have the added benefit of having a lift gate that can take people out of high water and flood situations. It's storage for, I think it said 20 people. There are also tie-downs for wheelchairs. It will help our aging population as well, and those with disabilities that we can get out of other places. Any questions on that?
Thank you.
And the final one is replacing our ambulance 132. It's a 2017 International. We are looking to get a Horton ambulance, and it's going to be a Ford F-550. These are the ambulances that we had switched over. The Horton's a different brand, but the Ford F-550 is what we've been using for ambulances for the last few years. Unfortunately, the pricing continues to increase like everything else. We've got an estimate right now of $475,000 for that. And as I said, it's replacing a 2017, and it currently has 167,000 miles on it.
Just a quick question. The last time you were here for the fire truck, and it takes a long time to build one of those. Does it take a long time to build an ambulance also?
Not as long, but it's still, I believe, at least a year out.
It's a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it may be more, but it's not a 3-year build like an engine. Yeah.
Built, all right.
Thank you. Any questions or comments about the fire department capital? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Point of question. Probably for the town. Does anybody in the town keep track of the cost of the green communities? What we're spending? Extra on vehicles?
Not
We
specifically.
report, we submit a detailed report to them every year, but that's what they ask us to do.
Yeah. What's the purpose of us belonging to the green community and paying all this extra money?
So, what I'll say is, this is getting a little bit off the agenda, but, the green communities was in the works before I arrived. The select board, decided to pursue it. That's all I can say.
Okay. Well, I mean, from a cost perspective, if every year our costs are going up because we have to meet that standard, we've had this conversation before, what do we need versus what's nice to have? And if we're talking tens or $100,000 a year, I think it's a discussion that we should at least have the information to look at.
All right, thank you.
So
We'll bring that back.
The inspections department is on page 240-35.
What tab?
Is it tab 5?
Tab 5, yep, you're still in tab 5.
Good afternoon, committee. Ken Murphy, Building Commissioner, Town of Bourne. Right to it here. Yes, page 240-35, start on 5111. Contract for my salary was obviously approved, and then we go to 5112, which is my 2 amazing admins who are great. I had a couple retire last year, so I have 2 new assistants that have been great, and for the last 5 months, I've been teaching them how to do as much as they can. So that is obviously a better, salary this year, because of course they're 2 new assistants. So that's a deduction in my my budget. And pretty much everything else after that is the same. I did request for a full-time building inspector to assist me on the growth of the town and the major projects that are coming our way. With that, I will be retiring my part-time assistant, and to have a full-time assistant would be great to have, to be able to do all the inspection for our future projects in town, which will be a significant amount of construction in a matter of a year or so coming our way. So longevity, I just have one gentleman. He's my wire inspector, who's the only one that has longevity. Who else we have here? The little things change here and there as far as, building supplies and traveling, because of course, obviously gas pricing and cost of paper, which I think we get paper now from the admin's office, so we don't have to really deal with that anymore. And there's not really much here as far as compared to the other departments. Obviously, we do generate a lot of money every year. This is one of the reasons why I think having a full-time inspector of a salary of $67,573 is an average price based on other towns. And last year, we did bring in roughly $477,000 worth of permit revenue, with my budget last year being $359,000. So I feel like we are way ahead of the game, and I don't have to worry about any buildings or AC units, unlike my other. So that's pretty much straightforward. Any questions for me?
The building inspector is also the town's zoning enforcement officer, right?
Yes, I am. I'm the building commissioner / building zoning enforcer. Yes.
Thank you.
And then my assistant, well, my projected full-time assistant would just be strictly dealing with inspections and maybe an enforcement here or there, but not really as much as I would be taking care of.
So quick question.
and
So this is, it looks like you're eliminating a part-time building inspector from line 5120 and bringing them up to line 5112?
Correct. 21,000, moving it up to line item.
And then are you also adding somebody? Because that line increased overall even more than the 21,900.
It says PTs, it's supposed to be full-time?
It should be,
He's eliminating the
Full-time.
part-time position and adding the full-time
Okay, so
position.
it's
Yeah.
It's
Should say
full-time.
Yeah, so
it
it's
should
just,
say,
okay,
should say
gotcha.
just
PT
adding
instead of
the
PT.
part-time
Mhm.
wages up
That
there.
makes more sense.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for that.
More questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
DNR is 295-39, still in tab 5.
Do you have to keep the department heads that have already presented, or are they free to go?
No, if you don't think you need to circle back until the next, we can bring them back in the future meeting if you need to circle back, absolutely, they're free to go.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know we were the rate limiting step here. All right. Thank you.
Hannah Lawrence, Director of Natural Resources. As has been mentioned previously, the salaries are dependent on the collective bargaining agreement, particularly the department head and the laborers. There is a decrease as we've had changes in staff, so some retirements and other staff leaving the department that have been there for a number of years, with an increase to the clerical secretary, as well as changes to the shellfish and the marinas manager. The next increase under personal services is for $1,000 for holiday pay to cover the increased need for natural resource officer coverage during the busy summer holidays in particular. Under 5,400 in supplies, we have a new initiative for a shoreboard monitoring program. So over the last few years, we've seen an increase in the piping plovers that have been nesting on the Bourne beaches, so Sagamore Beach and Bassett's Island. These are both a federally and state listed bird, so they do require certain protections. So this would cover the costs of materials for fencing that is required to be put up by the state, as well as educational signage and materials, just letting folks know, what it is that we're doing, you need to keep out of the area to help protect the birds. This initiative would also allow for more of a presence for natural resources on the beaches, so, enforcement in regard to dogs or any issues like that that do pop up. Especially as the state is, continues to crack down on issues related to threatened species such as the piping plovers. So the next area of increase is on 295-41. And this is a $300 increase in the dues for Harbor Master. This will cover the Cape and Islands Harbor Master Association as well as Buzzards Bay Task Force increases that are expected through this year. On the next page, under animal control, purchase of services, there's an increase of $1,250, and this pertains to boarding dogs, impounds at the Animal Inn. There was an increase from $30 a day to $45 a day this past year, so this number accounts for the same amount of days that had previously been budgeted for, which works out to be about 83 days, as we tend to get, lots of animals that, need to be picked up, whether it's due to a medical emergency or, lost or strays. That number certainly changes every year, but again, this increase would account for the same amount of days as previously budgeted for. On 295-44, the next couple pages really pertain to changes to the marinas. So under R&M floats, docks, ramps at Taylor's Point, an increase of $1,000, which would allow for more maintenance to be done on these structures, particularly as the marinas continue to age. Next is an increase of $2,000 under services for banking. In fiscal year '24, we spent $15,171. And again, this seems to fluctuate every year, so have asked for an increase to hopefully account for that. The next is for $41,000 for fuel supplies at Taylor's Point Marina. So this would bring it up to $305,000. Again, another number that seems to fluctuate every year, but this is directly related to fuel sales. So this is what we purchase for the marinas, and in turn, the customers, utilize the service that we offer and purchase fuel. And then on this page, there is an increase of $1,000. This is under the Taylor's Point uniforms. So the marina manager's uniform allowance hasn't really been reflected in this line previously, so this increase would account for the $1,000 that is part of her contract, as well as the uniform supplies for all the marina staff. And on 295-45, similar to Taylor's Point, an increase of $1,000 for floats, docks, and ramps to account for any projects and repairs that need to be done at the Monument Beach Marina. Again, an increase. This is for $15,000 for fuel sold at Monument Beach to bring the number up to $135,000. And an increase of $150 to be able to replenish the available uniforms for the Monument Beach Marina staff.
Amanda?
Can you just refresh my memory on the fuel sales? Do we sell it at cost, or do we make any money off of that?
I believe we do make money off of it. I don't remember. It's obviously going to change based on, what they purchase it for.
Yeah.
But
Can I also add too, this is a local receipt on our revenue sources, so we also increased our local receipt budget by the same amount. So it's an offset.
Thank you.
Just if I could ask, maybe you'd mentioned it, what does banking at Taylor's Point mean?
this is the credit card fees.
The credit card fees.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That is something that that's something that for this budget and for ICE, we're looking at our options. They've just really been growing, and they're getting more and more expensive. The cost of the convenience charge. So it's something that hopefully we'll find a better option one of these days to keep that cost down.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Thanks.
And then, should I go over capital? for-
Sure, yes, please.
So the only capital request that we had was for $250,000, and that is an annual request, and that is for dredging, ramps and repairs, and piers. So that's something that we ask for every year. Many times, we're gonna do a dredge project, it requires multiple articles in order to, complete these projects, as they are usually pretty costly.
All right. Thank you.
The next budget is Public Works, and that is tab 7.
Good evening, thank you for having me. I'm Matt Sawicki, Public Works Director. So I just want to touch on a few things real quickly before we go through the budget. The total DPW budget, the proposed DPW budget for FY '26 is $2,934,563. That's a $38,435 increase, or 1.32%. Within the budget, you'll notice there's some reductions. They're not actually reductions. We've lumped some line items in towards the end of the budget to make it easier for bookkeeping and just to keep them all lumped together with the areas we believe they belong. So I'll just go through the registrations and inspections, and the admin and highway were combined into Public Works. Fuel expenses were combined and put into townwide fuel. The only, in the sanitation and recycling sections of our budget, we kept the fuel and registration inspection costs in there because those are part of the indirect costs, and for bookkeeping purposes, we leave those in sanitation and recycling. We also combined protective clothing under the highway, sanitation, and recycling sections into Public Works. So the first section of our budget is administration. There was a contractual obligation under 5111 for $2,500. I'm sorry, $2,560 as a contractual obligation. The next section of our budget is highway, 5294. There was a $5,500 increase for contracted services. This is the part of the DPW budget where we do sidewalk repairs, tree work, some engineering, and line painting. We'd like a small increase to that to continue to do those services and possibly do a few more. One of the big increases we had was in the highway section of our budget in 5484. That was $40,000 for vehicle parts. We have about 20 pieces of different highway equipment. And in the past, vehicles that were only used for snow and ice were taken out of the snow and ice budget. In FY '24, we started taking the routine maintenance in those vehicles out of the operating budget, and we started having a deficit doing that. So to continue doing it in that manner, we'd like to add $40,000 to the budget in that section, and that would bring it from $30,000 to $70,000. We currently have, of those 25 vehicles, 11 vehicles that are really only used for snow and ice. If we do have damage to those vehicles during a snowstorm, we will take money out of the snow and ice budget to do those direct repairs, but the routine maintenance we'd like to continue to take out of the operating budget. The next increase you'll see is in the sanitation section of our budget, 5484. That's $2,000 for vehicle parts. We've seen some cost increases for the specialized parts, and the age of the trucks has triggered us to ask for a slight increase from $50,000 to $52,000. The cost for, this is one of the sections we left, the registration and inspection costs. We are seeing a small increase in those costs, so we're raising that $140 from $440 to $580. The next section of our budget that has increases is in the vehicle maintenance section. In section 5112 in salaries, we'd like to have a promotional opportunity within this section. We're looking for an additional $3,593. I'm sorry, excuse me. The total increase for that line item is $4,315. Of that for $4,315, $3,593 is for a promotional opportunity to create a position within DPW for heavy equipment mechanic. We currently have 4 mechanics. Three of them are just standard mechanics, and we have a vehicle maintenance supervisor. We'd like to create a stepping stone position between the mechanics and the vehicle maintenance supervisor, where we would like to create the heavy equipment mechanic. They would have additional licenses. Right now, the mechanics are only required to have a CDL and a hydraulics license. These would have endorsements on those licenses, including a 4E and a 4G endorsement, and also an air tank endorsement on the CDL. The next line item, you'll see an increase for.
Sorry.
Sure, I'm
So
sorry.
do you plan on adding someone, or this is strictly administrative?
We're not adding any positions. This is just creating a stepping stone within the department.
That's it.
We also have another position coming up that's the same thing. It's just a promotional opportunity. It's not adding any positions to the
Gotcha,
department.
thank you.
So you already have somebody in mind?
We would advertise within the department, but we have experienced staff within DPW that would fill these
Could
positions.
fill it?
So there's, what Matt is referring to is we're proposing two upgrades, two position upgrades, and then we would follow the contract as far as putting those out essentially to bid for the existing staff, to bid on those, to apply for and bid on those jobs.
The next increase is also within the vehicle section of our budget. It's a $3,000 for overtime for the laborers. We've had more repairs, and we've gone over our overtime budget the past few years. We'd like to just continue to have that money to allow to do the repairs anytime they're needed. A lot of times, at the end of the day, the vehicles will come in with damage or work that needs to be done, and the mechanics will come in before the rest of the crews and get those vehicles ready to go so that we're able to utilize them the next day. The next section, 5248, in the vehicle maintenance section, the repair and maintenance of the machine and equipment by others. We have a lot of contracted maintenance for work in the wash bays and the lifts, the cranes, the compressors, and all the equipment in the garage. Those costs have gone over the past few years. Some of them are maintenance costs, some of them are issues we've had with the equipment. So we'd like to increase that line item by $5,000 from $20,000 to $25,000. The next increase is 5430, and that's for the supplies for all these pieces of equipment. So the welding supplies, the first aid kits for the vehicles, supplies for the wash bays, spill containment, and hazardous material handling. We'd like to also seek a $5,000 increase for those, from $10,000 to $15,000. Our 5482, our cost for oil changes has gone up. The cost of oil and all the lubricants we use, the DEF for some of the diesel vehicles, we've seen it continually go up each year. So we're asking for a $4,000 increase, from $20,000 to $24,000. Also, 5495, we've definitely seen a spike in fire vehicle parts. A lot of the heavy equipment parts and the specialized things the fire department does pay for, but a lot of the maintenance and just the routine maintenance and the various parts of the fire trucks that our mechanics are able to handle, we do in-house. And last year, we went quite over our budget on that, so we'd like to increase that line item by $9,000, from $17,000 to $26,000. Next, we'll move on to Public Works. This is another one of the promotional opportunities we'd like to offer the staff at DPW. 5116, we're looking for an increase of $14,756. What we'd like to create is a third foreman's position. We currently have two foremen. We've taken on more responsibilities, and also there's been some things with MS4 and some safety training that we've had to do, and we'd like to add a position that kind of specializes in the MS4 monitoring, and also doing some training and making sure we're keeping up with all our safety things within the department. We think it would be a good opportunity for growth within the department. What we would do is take one of our truck driver positions and eliminate that and create the foreman's position. So we're hopes that it wouldn't only create a foreman, but would open up other positions for other employees for growth. Of that, I do want to point out that of that increase of $14,756, there would have actually been a negative or a reduction in that line item of $670. So the cost for the promotion is $15,432. The next line item you'll see an increase is 5485. This is where we've combined the vehicle registration inspection costs. We currently take care of all the inspections and registrations for all town vehicles. In the past few years, what we've done is we've brought in a company to actually do the inspections at the DPW, instead of having all the individual drivers and departments go to various shops around town and around out of town to get the inspections done. There's a slight increase to a cost increase to doing that, but it's much more productive and efficient for us to be doing it in this manner. So that increase, the increase was $7,630. Of that increase, most of those were from line items combined, but there was a $4,150 increase above what we moved into that line item to continue doing the inspections in that manner. The next line item with an increase is $5,484. This is where we've combined all of our protective clothing for all the staff in DPW. For 24 positions, this includes $1,000 for a uniform allowance, which is contractually obligated by the union, and also $350 for additional safety equipment per staff member. So that would be vests, hard hats, ear protection, safety glasses that we supply the employees. In recycling, 5305 is a new line item we've added to the budget. This is $14,700 for contracts with it's a company called Re-Rig. They maintain the software that we use to track all the trash and recycling. Whenever we tip a cart, whenever we tip your trash barrel, it's scanned, and we maintain a database of when all those carts were tipped, so we're able to track the drivers and where the carts were picked up at. In the past, this was paid by ISWIM, but we think to centralize the location to make it a little more efficient, we're going to take on that cost, and ISWIM will pay for that out of their indirect costs. Also in recycling, we're asking for an additional $2,000 in vehicle parts.
So if we could just back up to that cost. So what's the purpose of doing this? Just for data collection so we understand how many houses are being serviced, or why are we doing this?
Yes, it tracks how many carts we're tipping a day, but also when customers call and ask if we've been in the area or if we've tipped their car, if they claim we've missed a cart, it allows us just to monitor all that data.
But you're not scanning like the barcode on a bin, you're just,
It scans the barcode.
oh,
on
it
the
scans the
bin.
barcode?
Yes, it
Oh,
actually
okay.
does, yeah.
Okay. So that's more for service? We're paying a lot of money to,
It's for service, and it's also, it allows us to track our drivers also in a way so we know where they are. It gives us a time and a location of when the barrel is tracked.
okay.
So there was the $2,000 an additional cost for vehicle parts for recycling, from $30,000 to $32,000, and a slight increase in registration and inspections in recycling also. So that was the overall DPW operating budget. I will say that townwide fuel, last year was budgeted at $275,000. This year was budgeted at $300,000. Snow and ice, last year was $338,000. We don't see any need to increase that cost this year. And also, streetlights were $56,000 last year, and we're planning on keeping that at the same cost this year.
Priscilla, did you have questions?
It's just that, it's helpful if you can say which page
Oh, I'm sorry.
line you're talking about. I kind of got lost there.
Sorry. Any other questions or comments? All right, thanks.
Do you want to do your capital?
Yes. What, was it, which was the order?
And this is tab 3, correct?
Yes. Your order is M6 drainage repairs, the Packer, and then the intersection.
So the first capital request we had was to replace a 2005 dump truck with a 9-foot plow, and we'd just like to replace that with a 2025 regular cab 4-wheel drive dump truck. Same thing with the plow. This vehicle will have a lift gate and grain sides, which grain sides are an enclosed dump truck. It allows us to put wood chips in the back and also store other equipment that may want to keep out of the elements at certain times. This truck's used on a daily basis by the staff in the winter and in the summer, more so than most of our other vehicles. The cost for this vehicle is $156,000. We're not adding any vehicles to the fleet. We'll retire the older truck. It currently has 161,000 miles on it, and it's been in service for 19 years. It's been acting up and giving us emissions issues, so it's past its useful life. The second project we have is, we've asked for $400,000 for drainage improvements. As you may or may not know, we have multiple drainage issues around town that have been popped up and just kind of built up over the years. We've put together a spreadsheet of all the drainage issues in town and thoughts we have on ways to repair them. Some of them can be done in-house by DPW staff. Some of them need engineers to design them. So this $400,000 will give us a start. We've prioritized most of the leaks, most of the drainage issues. This funding will give us the opportunity to make those repairs. We have some designs being done through Chapter 90 right now. Our estimates show those repairs will be around $250,000 for a repair on Woodland Ave. The rest of that money will be divvied up to other projects as we need to do it. Our hope is that we can do this as an annual project for a few years to catch up on these drainage issues. These will also focus more on maintenance issues and kind of past their time drainage projects as opposed to sea level rise or environmental impacts. Those will kind of be focused on in a different area. But these are more just the standard systems that have failed that need to be taken care of. The next capital request is $439,000 for a new rubbish truck. This would be one of the side loading trash packers you see with 2 operators as a driver and a laborer. It's able to tip carts on both sides of it, so they're able to work both sides of the roads as they move down the road. This would be funded through ICE-1 retained earnings. We currently have 4 of these side loader trucks. They were all purchased within 3 years of each other, and we have been doing the engine refurbishment project on these, which has been approved the past few years, and that's added to the useful life. But what we would like to try to do is space out purchasing the next round of vehicles so that they're not all around the same time period. It also takes us about 19 months to get a truck. We ordered our last truck in May of 2023, which is a smaller packer. It was an 11-yard packer, but we still didn't receive it till this December of 2024. So we're at a 18 to 20-month wait period for any truck that we order. The last project is, this project started out as a larger project. This is the intersection improvements at Barlow's Landing Road. This project has been through multiple design phases. As I traced back about 20 years, different scales, different projects. When we first presented, we presented it as a much larger project. We presented it as doing all of the work in the area, working our way down to Wings Neck Road, working a sidewalk towards the Singing Bridge. It was decided amongst the town, and when we went to Capitol, to reduce the scope. So we've reduced the scope to a cost of $423,000 to just do the intersection of that area. It'll create a 4-way stop, and we'll do some minor sidewalk and pedestrian improvements in that area. This would include the final engineering and any contract administration we need assistance with. The hopes are that this will still, this project was number 1 on the town's Complete Streets project, so so we are going to apply for grant funding. If we are able to get the grant funding, it will fund $264,000 of that project. So even though we need the approval of $423,000 at town meeting, hopefully we'll only need about $158,000 to complete the project.
I'm sorry, it's $423,000 to add 2 stop signs and some minor sidewalk work?
It'll rebuild the whole, it'll be repavement, it'll be new crosswalks. The whole project, the intersection will be completely redesigned. The angles will be different and the stop lines will be moved.
Okay. I would just say I just had to stop there for a giant turkey crossing. And there must have been 25 of them, and, so, Just be careful of the turkeys over there. There's a lot of turkeys.
There's going to be a sign for that.
I hope so. They were very cute. They were very cute. They all waited for each other to cross the road. So, yeah.
Yes, Wayne.
I would like to commend Matt on this particular project. He came before the capital committee, and we really beat him up pretty bad. And he came back about 3 weeks later with a cost of 1/3 of what the original was. So we really appreciate that he listened to us, and he brought us a project that deals with the specific need that's there now, and thank you.
So Marlene sent us a lot of information on capital projects, which I think I forwarded everybody, which has a lot of information that we've been talking about tonight, like pictures of the intersection, and I would encourage you to take a look at that if you haven't.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Library is on tab 9.
Good evening, Area Finn, Library Director. Mine is not nearly as interesting as Matt's was. I'm presenting a level service budget. The total increase is only 2.7%. We have no new initiatives this year. Starting with personnel services, total increase is 2.15%, which is contractual obligations only. When we go to purchase of services, 5,200. It's a very small increase in our data processing, which is our databases, and our membership with CLAMS, which is the resource sharing network. Jumping to supplies, 5,400. The total increase is 6,400. About 6,000 of that is a 5% increase in ebooks and in print books. The others are small, $100 for copy paper and $200 for operational expenses, which are things like barcodes, library barcodes, item barcodes, things like that. Also, an increase in program supplies, which is $55.95, office supplies miscellaneous. We're already overexpended for this year. These are things that are part of our library programs that are not part of the program itself, that the programmer did not. So if we have a performance and we offer bottled water or we do anything like that, the increase is actually a testament to our success. Last year we had 6,000 participants, all ages. So we're back from pre-COVID levels of attendance, and now we're back buying glitter and all those things that we do. So our total budget is 2.7% increase as of right now.
Thanks. Any questions or comments on the library budget?
How many ebooks would you be able to buy with the $68,000?
I'm sorry, where are you?
On line 5592, you have ebooks in there in the budget for 68,000. I mean, there was 2024 was 6,700. It jumped up to 65.
Previously, the materials that circulate were all in one budget line, which was under books.
Okay.
However, we're realizing that there are the difference between items that circulate, physical items, and books that are ebooks, e-audios, streaming. So that line was split last year, and so you'll see that it's about 65 each.
Okay. And so I do use CLAMS. So does your ebook budget part of CLAMS, or is this additional ebooks that?
This is just
library?
our portion of the ebooks for CLAMS. So
Okay,
we
so it is
pay
tied into
in our
CLAMS,
dues,
okay.
which is under data processing,
Yep.
up under purchase of services. That gives us a base collection. The additional 68,250 includes items that we purchase just for Bourne cardholders. So that also includes Canopy, which is a service that we only offer, CLAMS does not offer, which is a streaming video. They also do books, they do documentaries. So those are Bourne-only cardholders. As a point of interest, this is the first year, or last fiscal year was the first year that our e-circulation surpassed our physical circulation. So we did 140,000 circulations of anything electronic that you couldn't hold, and 96,000 in items that you can touch.
Yeah,
So
I
the
believe
shift
it,
has happened
yeah.
from the last time that I was here.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Sewer is tab 13.
Oh, you're back. You have a big job.
Good evening, Matt Sawicki, Public Works Director. I have a question for the chair or for Marlene. Erica, this budget's had a couple changes since it was put into the packet. Do you want me to address those changes, or do you want me to go through the packet?
Why don't you highlight the changes?
Okay.
We will come back and formally incorporate those and present them as an adjustment, but you can highlight where those adjustments will be coming.
Okay.
But they're not, this is still the original
Okay, that's
printed
fine.
version.
Excuse me, could I ask that you say which page and then which line item you're talking about
Yes.
each time? Thank you.
Absolutely. So on page 442-1, line item 5116, this is one of the changes that we made. There was a promotional opportunity, 5116. We'd also like to offer a promotional opportunity in the sewer department. We are asking one of our employees to get a new license to add chemicals to the sewer system, and we feel as though that should be compensated, and also add another step for someone to grow. So the dollar figure for that is $3,978. That would make the total increases to 5116, $5,441.68. The next line item on the same page is 4318. This is a contractual obligation, an increase of $11,314. This is the cost of sending the sewage to Wareham. So that would bring the total cost of that $463,878 per year to Wareham to take 200,000 gallons per day of wastewater. On the same page, 5351, we're asking for a $27,200 increase to the contracted services for the wastewater treatment facility. We have an O&M contract that's about $87,000 a year that covers 3 to 4 hours a day of maintenance at the treatment plant. What we found is that plant is taking more work than that. If the operators come in the afternoon or they respond to an alarm, we're currently taking that out of other sections of the budget to cover it. So we feel as though $120,000 a year will cover those costs, at least for next year, and we'll see where those costs go. They are also doing a little more maintenance now that the plant's gotten older. So we just want to make sure that we are allowing ourselves funds to continue to do that. Number 5352 on the same page. These are the chemicals. There will be an additional about $8,000 in chemicals when we start adding chemicals at the Hideaway pump station, which sends flow to Wareham. Those chemicals are going to be added starting in the spring to reduce the odors and also the corrosion of the pipe that runs from that pump station up into Wareham. On the next page, number 5353, this is a large increase. This is $50,000 for sludge. Our sludge costs have gone up each year due to the amount of sludge we're producing and also just the cost to take it away. About twice a week, we have a truck come and they actually remove the sludge from the wastewater treatment plant and dispose of it at a wastewater treatment plant at another location. The reason our costs are high is that our plant does not reduce the liquid from the sludge. So any of the sludge we take, there are certain plants that will take the liquid out and they can get rid of less sludge in a drier manner, but all of our sludge is liquid and it's taken off site. Also, so this will include about twice a week to remove the sludge, but also annually we are calculating about $14,000 to remove excess sludge and wastewater from the trap tank and the equalization tanks, which would become an annual maintenance to make sure we're taking care of those tanks properly. The next line item I want to talk about is 5760. This is showing an increase of 122% of $164,000. This is actually, we found out that this payment will not be due to Wareham until the following year in FY '27. So we're actually going to see a reduction in that line item of about $4,000 in the next time you see this budget, which will be substantial and will lower the entire budget. The next line item you'll see an increase on is line item 5870, which is also on the same page. We're asking for an additional $20,000. I'm bringing that line item from $90,000 to $110,000. This is replacement equipment. Once again, as that plant is aged, we're finding that we're replacing more and more parts as they wear, as they become corroded, and just as they pass their useful life. We've been monitoring the parts much more closely and are keeping track of them, but we are seeing an increase in cost with those. So those are the increases we have. I know this budget, the budget as it's currently in the packet, has a $1,778,721. The budget that we've made the changes to will actually be $1,614,247.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on sewer? All right, thanks.
Capital.
Was there an order? Like, I had grinder and then SCADA.
Can you do it the other way?
Okay.
Thanks.
So our first capital project is we'd like to upgrade the SCADA system, which is the data and acquisition system for the entire wastewater system. Right now, we have different pump controls, different alarm systems, and different flow data at our 3 main pump stations, including the wastewater treatment plant. What we'd like to do is just combine all those, and upgrade the pump station at Main Street, Hideaway Village, and the community building, and also do some minor upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. What this will do is allow us to monitor the system as a whole and look for problems ahead of time. It'll allow us more information to monitor the operations of the plant and the actual operators of what they're doing, so we can keep better track of the alarms and the flows that they're dealing with. We're asking for $88,000 just for the design. In a future capital project, we'll bring forth the construction costs.
I mean, aren't a lot of these controls already at end of life?
And they are, but they don't speak to each other. So they are there, but we need to do some minor upgrades in there so that they're all speaking to each other simultaneously.
Sorry, what does SCADA stand for?
Supervisory Control Acquisition. Let's get the last one.
Thank you.
The next project is a grinder.
Automated.
Automated.
Supervisory
Data.
Control.
Automated data acquisition. Sorry, it took me a minute.
Automated, thank you. Okay, makes much more sense, okay.
So we're also proposing a grinder pump project. This project was originally presented as a $150,000 project out of free cash to replace 10 grinder pumps. There's 189 grinder pumps in the wastewater system. The Board of Sewer Commissioners would like us to make it a larger project and do all the pumps at once. The cost to do all the pumps at once is $1,863,000. That's our current estimates. Of those 189, we have 194 pumps and only 5 have been completely rehabbed. So we're looking at replacing 189,000 pumps. This isn't just replacing the pumps. This is
No,
replacing.
sorry, that's too many.
189.
189.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
189,000.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know,
about
it's
that.
getting late. 189.
Yep, I'm sorry, yeah. So we have 194 pumps total in the system, and we need to replace 189 pumps. And we'd also replace the pumps, the control panel on the house, and the wiring that runs from the pumps to the control panels. Most of these pumps and the wiring is original from the 90s, and it's direct burial wiring. So as that fails, we're not able to do repairs to it. And there's been some times we've had to kind of, make less than safe repairs to these pumps to continue to make them work. So this is the current project as is proposed at this time.
For 189.
Yes, for 189 pumps, yes.
How long would it take to do 189 pumps?
So we're thinking about 2 years.
2 years.
The goal is to do it, some of it can be done in-house with the sewer staff.
Yeah.
But the wiring we'd have to sub out separately. So it would involve us utilizing town staff. So that's why we think about 2 years if we're being fair and honest about what we can do with 2.5 staff members.
Hi, question. I might have missed it, but did you have a unit cost for each of those? That's one question. The second one, does that include all the wires to and from the control box?
Yes, it does. It includes conduit and wires.
And then, yeah, so unit cost, just a ROM on that would be awesome.
It's about $9,859. And that includes a contingency.
10,000.
What's the lifespan on those?
So the wiring and the control panels, it's closer to 15 or 20 years. The pumps are between 5 and 13, depending on how they're going to be, depending on who's using them and how much they're being utilized. We have some pumps out there that are original and never had a problem, especially some of the summer houses where they're not using it all the time. We have some pumps we're replacing every 2 or 3 years. So as we move forward with this project, we're also going to look at updating the regulations to make sure that we're compensating for the people that may be abusing the pumps or not using it in the proper manner.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking replacing all at once versus a phased approach. I mean, I know if they need to be done, obviously you want to do them, but, moving forward, does it make more sense to phase it like we do vehicles? I don't know if that makes sense in this case, but.
Well, I think once this project is done
Yeah.
and the wiring's in conduit, then you're just replacing the pump and they're $2,000, just the pump itself. So it's really the electrical work that's driving the cost of this project.
Got it. Okay.
There is a breakdown in the updated. I don't know if the updated documents
Put
made
it in
into
the
the.
book. Let's check if I.
'Cause there's been a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, this has changed a lot. Let me see if we've got let's check the book and see if we've got the most up-to-date.
Mark, did you have a question?
I did. Any of the pits need to be rebuilt?
We haven't found any that have to be rebuilt yet. Occasionally, there's an elbow inside of them that needs to be rebuilt, and we've compensated for that cost in here in case we need to make that adjustment on any of them.
We did that part right. And what was the total number for this proposal?
180, the dollar figure?
Please.
$1,863,000.
Thank you.
Priscilla?
Oh, hold on, I gotta get that number down. Okay, quick question. Does this cover a certain geographical area, like Buzzards Bay only, or what areas do these pumps, where do they reside?
So the sewer system's only in the Buzzards Bay area,
Okay.
mostly the Taylor's Point area, and the neighborhoods behind Perry Ave near the town hall, they're all on the grinder pump systems.
Okay. Do you anticipate including any other neighborhoods or in the
This is
future? or
Only
this is it
existing
for now?
infrastructure. This isn't for any future growth.
Has there been any discussion about where that might be?
We haven't had any.
No,
that I've
no
been-
movement
that-
on that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, any more questions or comments? Thanks.
Thank you.
Is that somebody's car?
Like somebody's car, yeah.
Is it mine?
Let's hope it's not me.
It's a pickup truck?
Pickup truck.
Pickup truck?
Is it the town's?
Might be Kevin's.
Oh, it might be Kevin's.
Is it a little pickup truck? Like a tan one? Yeah.
That's
Kevin.
Can you find him?
Find him.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. So, we'll be we had a chance to look at the minutes. You want to do the minutes?
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so, starting with the minutes of September 30, which, I didn't anticipate not having Wi-Fi here, but, is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 30?
Yes.
Wayne made motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Miranda. Is there any discussion, like the proposed amendment or anything? Okay, all in favor of voting, of approving the minutes of September 30?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, thank you. And December 16th?
Crazy.
Which, as I recall, was a short meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Approved second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say
Yes.
aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, thank you. And the 6th, which is the special town meeting. Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, does the town administrator have a feeling about when we're gonna meet next?
If possible, I'd like to meet next Monday, February 10th.
Okay.
Is that all right?
I don't see why not, it's not a holiday.
No.
It's after the Super Bowl, though.
We'll be fine.
Cover.
Yeah.
Recovery time
we
is
know
not
what
as
you're
good
gonna
as it
do.
used to be.
Okay,
And I'll be able to confirm with you on Thursday whether or not I can do a hybrid. If I can't do a hybrid, does the group want to meet in person again?
I can make.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it'll be at 7 o'clock again?
Yes. And I think we'll be able to finish up the rest of the budget that night.
oh, great. Good. All right, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Amanda,
Oh, they have to